All right, welcome to our bi-weekly webinar here in the middle of summer of August of 2020. This year, of course, started out phenomenally. We saw an incredible January, February, marked by a massive change in March, which has probably changed the course of both the economy, most importantly, though, your personal lives, our personal lives. And I know there's been a lot of frustration around that, because one of the biggest things I want to say that's been occurring here is, and let me describe it in a term that I've heard quite a bit, our agency has been taken away. What's agency? Agency is our ability to choose what it is we want to do. How do we know that? Ken, myself, Zach, Peter, Ashley, all of us have been talking to you about things you want to do, and you're unable to do a lot of those. You can't go to some states. You have to quarantine. You're uncomfortable going to restaurants. You can't go to certain countries to visit. Some of the bucket list items that you've wanted. So a lot of patients, I'm going to bring three things up that have been really important for us over time in doing what we've done with which are faith, patience, and discipline. Right now, it's hard to have all of those at one time, but it's a time we need it most. There's a lot of VUCA going on, and for those of you who understand what VUCA is, it's, we are definitely in a VUCA time. So right now, volatile, uncertain, changing, or complex and ambiguous is what we're living right now. So many of you have adapted extremely well. I know that Ken's going to talk about the portfolio and some of the markets with Zach as well, and some of the different planning. But I really want to congratulate a lot of you. And I also want to help a lot of you, because I know you all put on a good, brave face for us, but some of you have shared the vulnerabilities with us as well. What should I do from here? What can I do now? How can I? So we're going to take a look at some of those items to help you with as well. A couple of things I normally start with, which are housekeeping items. So I'm going to bring those up to you to begin with here. First of all, we recently sent out the mid-year letter sent on the 7th. Many of you responded and reached out to us on that and had a few questions, but we kind of reiterated what it is we do, our discipline for what it is we do, so you understand it as well. We've done quite a bit as well. We sent out the Nick Murray's Client Corner, and if you haven't read it, take a look at it. It's a piece that's really, this comes from a gentleman who's been doing this for 50 years, and a lot of his wisdom comes out in that. So he's 72, he's really a phenomenal teacher for us over time, but it's a great thing that we want to share with you as well. When I said, remember, don't just do something, stand there when it comes to your portfolio. Now we're going to change that message today to don't just stand there, do something when it comes to your personal life and the community. So those are really, it's a flip-flop. And I know that seems quite like a dichotomy, but it's what this world is right now. Right now, there's a fine line between health and going the other direction. I say that because that's Ken's favorite word, fine line. Ken's going to coin that. He actually has it trademarked called fine line. And he'll share more about that later. So the client letter was a piece we sent out to you. It's really meant to be a great sage piece for you. The optional questionnaires are still being distributed, and they are phenomenal. We appreciate the getting to know you better. It helps us understand you and your family better. I just want to make sure that you understand that we read those, we use those in the sense of getting to know you better. We're going to send ours out to you as well in a process so that you can get to know us and our team better as well. But I know you guys are busy. You got a lot of stuff to do. Some of you say, I'd like more to do, but some of you still have stayed busy during this time as well. Please keep an eye out for the online appointment scheduling as well via email. Another thing, so our Gentian team, a couple of important updates. Number one, the Zoom meetings we're going to do now, we're going to enhance security. We're going to have a password as well. So look, the change in this is a lot of you have all adapted to Zoom and it's been phenomenal. We're going to add a password for security as well. It's just, we think, one more step that's going to be available for you that we should use in this process. So look for, there'll be a password emailed as well. If you don't get it, we'll call us and we'll get that to you as well just before the meeting. The Gentian Women's Group is going to have a virtual gathering next week. I know a lot of people have used this as a wonderful social place to connect, to talk about some of the frustrations, to talk about some of the positives that have come out of this as well. So we found that this growing group is not just, we used to use it for our single clients, and now we're actually just using it for, let's call it Women of Gentian, because we have some amazing people out there who are there to both help, talk, listen, share, and it's really a great growing community that a lot of people have found beneficial. So if it's your first time, I understand you're a little hesitant about it, that's okay. You can hop in, you don't have to participate as much. They'll ask some questions, but it's a very easygoing group. There's not a lot of pressure in it at all, just so you know. Also on our next Wednesday webinar will be on September 2nd. And I just want to let you guys know that piece as well. Also save the date for September 30th at 11 a.m., our virtual fall forum. So we do that 2 or 3 times a year, but our fall forum will be virtual again. We're going to do that piece where it's probably an hour and a half to 2 hours of really good technical stuff for those of you who love that. So if you are having trouble sleeping during COVID, it may be a great time to either pull out the recording at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night and put yourself to sleep. But we are going to go through a ton of data that we want to, that I think is beneficial for you as well, and talk about all the things that we do behind the scenes. There's a ton of them. I don't want to overwhelm you with those now. But that's a few of the pieces that we have for the housekeeping right now. Again, I started out with faith, patience, and discipline. And what I didn't probably add to that to begin with is gratitude. It's becoming more difficult during rougher times for some people to express gratitude and also to feel an attitude of gratitude. But I would say right now, let's go big. Let's take a moment for ourselves and go with a positive focus. So what is really grateful? So what is something you're grateful for, let's say in the last 30 days or so? Go ahead and take a few moments and write that down. It's a very important process that you write it down. I'll give you 15 seconds and I'll share mine. 14, 15. Okay, I couldn't wait any longer. So my family has an RV. We've been blessed to have one for 7 or 8 years, and it was a phenomenal blessing when we purchased it. Now my daughters are 11 and 14, and occasionally there's some, I don't know if I want to go on an RV trip and go away from my friends and all. But we just took a trip to the middle third of the UP, and it's absolutely beautiful up there. We stayed in our RV the whole time, and everybody's social distancing, everybody's physical distancing, social, we talk quite a bit, so that's a good thing. But what a beautiful area up there. I know many of you have been up there. Most of my team in the last 4 weeks has been up there for their vacation. It's absolutely hilarious to go, wow, we've all been about to the same place over the last 4 or over the next 6 weeks, anywhere from Crivets up to Iron Mountain, and even Copper Peak, the ski jump that I stood on. I have no fear of heights, but I do have a fear of falling. And I ascended that thing. And when you realize there's no floor on the top 6 flights of that thing, it's just a great, it was one of those things I'm gonna have to say I'm fairly proud. I'm not proud of a whole lot, but I'm very proud that I actually overcame my fear of dying. So we did that piece as well. That was kind of a piece that we did there. But so the family vacation, getting to know the kids better, hanging out, the discussions that we had, just really becoming bonding as a family is my gratitude as well. Ken, would you like to share yours real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say that nice to be with all of you as usual. Yeah, I can't see you, but I can definitely know that you're there. So I just want to say I'm grateful for my wife. She's actually been doing a lot of summer schooling with the kids, and the more clients I talk to, the more of you who are educators that you've spent your whole life educating students and children know that the fundamentals are very, very important. My wife is very good at it. Our house looks like a school classroom, actually. So anyways, and also to reiterate what Chris mentioned, from a traditional standpoint, a lot of you have traditions that you do something with your family very consistently, and that's what really sticks and keeps families together. Ours happens to be to go up to Saint Germain every year. Next week is that time frame. So again, I know a lot of you vacation up there. Saint Germain, the Eagle River, the Lac de Flambeau. That's a very, very positive place to be. It kind of brings you back to the basics of life, with fishing and just being together. So just wanted to reiterate my gratitude for the opportunity to do that. So, and I miss everybody. You know that. I love you guys. And I miss you. I can't wait to see you in person soon.
I agree. Thank you. How about Zach? How about yourself?
Yeah, over the last week and a half, everything had a couple opportunities with the team and also one of our coaching groups to really sit back and reflect on this year of 2020. And the main consensus is how unbelievably lucky we are as a team to have each other. And I've said it before, I'm grateful every day for this team to work side by side with them. And also most importantly, I'm grateful for each and every one of you and how you've handled everything over these last 6 months too. You're our greatest teachers, and even in just the short amount of time, I've learned so much from each of you, and this last week kind of came to a head of being able to realize that and really capture it. So I'm thankful for this team and each and every one of you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Zach and Ken. I appreciate that. It's really nice, like as you said, to go through a time, if you will, that's trying, but also realize that the strengths that come from it. So I think somebody once said, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." Unfortunately, we don't know if the disease will be the end to some of us, but it may or may not. We're finding it to be a little bit less virulent as it continues to grow. But then there's some maybe side effects that you guys might hear about as well. So again, stay safe. We're still continuing to stay safe here, and people have asked us the question of when are we going to do in-person meetings? Very, 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 very few, very, only when necessary. We can do them outside on the back patio. And again, I say that we're very reluctant still to be the cause of anything that would cause you harm. So as long as we're all still willing to be smart and do the Zooms, I think let's continue to do that on an ongoing basis. We'll reevaluate on a monthly basis, but I don't see any trend, especially I think Ozaukee County and Washington County just issued some new posting yesterday or the day before that actually caused our school systems to go from full force in person to online. And it may have seemed that the key is the adaptability here is very quick. So when you look at this today, it was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for someone to practice what I call responding versus reacting. There's a lot of reactions right now and they're not good. And people are posting them, they're talking, they're calling our school officials, our school board. It'd be a tough time to be on the board right now. But instead, I'd like to make sure that I respond and make sure I respond in a smart way to say that may be the best decision that's possible. Let's operate with that. They've been elected in these positions. Let's follow those people as well. Speaking of that as well, there's a few things coming up here that are probably on most people's minds too. And I guess election is maybe one of the words as well. You'll see that as well coming. Now, you know our opinions on elections. We are first an economic engine, number one, loosely knit by politics. And you know what my definition of politics is, right? It comes from the Greek word meaning poly, that's the beginning. And poly means many. And ticks are blood-sucking insects. So when you really look at what politics means to some, you can use that joke. I know the DNC is going on now as well, so there's a lot of things being cast back and forth. But really what I want to be careful of is I think no matter, we have to be very careful coming up with this election. What's going to happen fiscally, I mean, with money, is going to be there'll be some reactions, and I think you'll see if there's a clear winner, that'll be priced in before the election. But you have to be extremely careful about this. I think there's the possibility with all of the angst and our agency, our ability to choose being taken away, that you're going to see no matter who wins a reaction that's going to be less than savory from both sides. So be very, very careful with this. Be cognizant of it. Around election day, be safe. Don't be part of the problem if you can obviously not be part of it. But I think there's going to be some backlash, no matter who wins on either side, the potential for us. I want you guys to stay safe with that as well, but definitely don't add to the problem. There's a lot of fuel on this fire anyway, and it may not directly be from the election and maybe from something else shown when they get the opportunity. So I wanted to reach out on that piece as well. There's a lot of discussion and we get a lot of people, Andy Freeman and others, talking about what's going to happen in the election. And what we found last time is by trusting any one of them, you would have zero probability of getting what was right. So we don't trust a lot. We just listen, we hear the aspects of it. But if you go back and study presidential history, elections will have some volatility, but as long as the economics behind them stay strong, the markets, economy, whatever will continue on. There's a lot of different opinions on this. Oh, it's going to be so rough. It's going to be so phenomenal. So what we do is, and I've talked to some very intelligent people about this, you can't argue with the market. The market does what the market does. And oftentimes very intelligent people will argue with it and find they're very wrong. We are prepared for whatever happens. It continues to go up, it continues to go down. We need to make sure that you're adaptable as well, because there's two components. We're here to serve you. We need to make sure we're both ready and adaptable for that as well. So the faith, patience, and discipline that we always talk about for both portfolios applies more also to today's social. It applies today to families. It applies today to those that you're brought together with, because that faith, patience, and discipline, faith in the future that things will get better, patience to get through this, and then the discipline to continue to take care of yourself, both mentally, physically, and emotionally and spiritually, I should say as well, is really, really what we want to broadcast today to you. So I know I didn't talk a lot about the markets and the finance. I'm going to let Ken and Zach do more of that right now, but I just wanted to bring up a few of those ideas for myself, and then I'm going to share my last couple of ideas here at the very end. So how about Zach, what's going on with the markets? I hear they're really volatile. Tell me what's going to happen with the markets.
I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen here. We know for certain.
Thank you. Awesome.
But today is more so just a check in on the markets, not necessarily go through the exact year-to-date numbers and from the peak like we have in the last couple. But you may have seen or have heard that the S&P 500 yesterday closed above its previous all-time high pre-coronavirus. and that magic number is 3,386 for the S&P 500, and yesterday it closed above that. Depending on the definition you look at, that could be the end of the bear market, if you will, which would signal the shortest bear market in market history, and the average since World War II has been around 14 months. Other definitions of the end of the bear market differ. Some say that you need it to hold for 6 months for it to truly be one. There's no real science to determine that exact date, but as we're starting to see articles and things like that come out, New York Times last night said stocks are officially in a bull market again. So these are terms that you're probably going to start seeing and hearing. If someone's looking at the Dow Jones, it's still about just under 10% away from its previous all-time high. And again, the NASDAQ is more technology-based, and that one has been above its all-time high for a month or so now. The one real quick thing that we wanted to touch on today is just a look behind the curtain of how we choose our mutual funds and the managers behind them. We've received a few questions in the past. Out of thousands of different options, how do you guys come up with a core portfolio? How do you come up with only a couple options in these different asset classes? It's a great question. I'm not going to go through each one because this could be probably a couple hours that we go through. And Chris, Ken, myself, Peter, and Mike absolutely love going through these together and the data behind them, but I'll spare you guys going through each one individually. But just to give a look behind the curtain, there's a few things we look for when we're trying to pick a mutual fund for the core portfolio. The first one where we start is, what kind of asset class are we looking for? Is it for large cap? Is it mid cap, small cap, emerging markets? Or is it in our fixed income space? That's the first thing we look at. We look at Morningstar rating. It's not the solve all, but we want to see what other analysis see of this mutual fund. Is it 5-star? Is it 4-star, 3-star? Why is that? We look at the size of the fund. If it's too massive, there's some liquidity issues with some of those. Some of the really popular funds that we hear are absolutely massive and they can't buy or sell just on a whim like some of the smaller ones. We look at manager experience. Generally, we try to find a manager that's 10 or more years, depending on the scenario and the asset class that we're looking at. We look at all the historical returns. We look at month to date, quarter, year to date, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, and now trying to look at 15 year because that includes pre-2008 and the reaction from 2008. Those are a little harder to find. But we look at, and the reason why we look at all those different ones is just to see how did they react and why did they react that way? Was it because 10% of that mutual fund was in Amazon and Amazon went up 50% this year? So we're always looking at those. Look at the expense ratio. We're always trying to save you as much money as we possibly can without sacrificing return or good management. So it's always a fine line that we're looking at for the expense ratio of each of these funds. The comparison to the index. Why did it overperform? Why did it underperform? Is it overweight in a certain area that underperformed for a certain amount of time? Another one that you may have heard is alpha and beta. The alpha of a mutual fund or a stock or anything is the excess return relative to its benchmark. So as an example, if it has returned over 5% over the S&P 500 year over year or whatever time frame you're looking at, that would have an alpha of 5 times more than the index. The next one we look at is beta, which measures volatility. If it has a beta of 1.0, that means it has the exact volatility as the S&P 500 or whatever benchmark you're comparing it to. If it's above 1.0, it's a little more volatile. And if it's below 1.0 at 0.75, as an example, it's a little less volatile. The comparison to peers is another one. And the biggest one also is how it fits in together with the other funds. And that one kind of takes all the data between everything I just mentioned and how it fits in, because a large cap value could outperform. If you look at it on paper, it could be the best one, but its top 3 holdings might be Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and those aren't necessarily large value funds. Those are more growth funds. So we're always looking at to see how it fits in with everything as a whole. Again, this could be a 3-hour long session on why we look at them, but that's just kind of a look behind the curtain of all the different things we look at and screen, not just on an annual basis, but on a monthly, sometimes weekly, depending on what's going on, in a quarterly basis for sure. With that, I'll turn it back to Chris.
Awesome, Zach. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I think it's interesting to see. I've been through 3 bear markets so far. This one by far the quickest, also the deepest and the most fearful, if you will, as well. And the unknown part of it is really kind of crazy. So thank you for the statistics. I know there's some incredible things that have come from it, and maybe we'll share a couple here in a minute too. But before we even get to some of that, because I want to go to get to Ken and do some of the planning. There's some incredible things right now that you can still do in the month of August, but there's only 11 days or 12 days left in the month of August. So we want to get to Ken about some of the planning things that we're doing here at Gentian, some of the things that we're seeing that you should also be aware of, and some of the deadlines that are coming out for a few different items as well. So if I turn it over to Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. I'm going to probably hit 7 or 8 topics, but I'm going to keep it very broad, not really go deep into them, but some of the things that we're hearing from you as we're doing reviews with you. So number one, first and foremost, I want to say congratulations. I'm very proud of a lot of you and almost all of you for being great investors. You were stuck through this with us, with our guidance and the faith, patience, and discipline that we talk about, and not walking off that cliff and making a really reactionary decision. So I'm very proud of a lot of you, because it's not easy to do, but it's the right thing to do. So I actually had a conversation with one of our clients who was hiking in the mountains in Colorado, and there's actually people that live up there that have no access to internet, they have no access to phones, they really have no access to information, really. They're just living really a very, very off the land, if you will. And they really had no idea that the stock market was actually down when they had a small conversation. And they're like, oh, really? That's interesting. And so, because on paper, from January 1 to right now, it looks like really nothing happened. I mean, if you look at your statement from January 1 to now, it's basically you're up a little bit or flat or very close to that, right? So, but there's a lot that happened in the last 8 months. So who's better off? Someone who really is paying attention, or someone who really has no idea? And probably the person that has no idea might be a little better off, because we can't get our heads into it. We can't let our mind start to think for us and start to make us do things that we probably shouldn't do. So I just want to say congratulations to all of you. Job well done. August 31st is a deadline. So we have about a week left here to get any unwanted required minimum distributions back into your IRA. So if you've taken one from all the way from January of this year to August 31st, coming up here in a week or so, if you've taken an unwanted RMD, you want to get it back in there, you need to let us know right away. I had a conversation with a client yesterday and we were able to reverse it. So we're still able to do that. August 31st is the deadline. Pension analysis. A lot of you are being offered pension buyouts basically from different companies you work on. Let us know about that. We'll help you through those. There's decisions to make, whether we want to take the monthly benefit or the lump sum, whether we want to take a single benefit or some sort of survivorship benefit. Let us know. We are definitely here to help you out, because then a lot of times in the survivorship benefit mode, it may cost you hundreds of dollars to protect thousands of dollars for a loved one. So again, let's go through that analysis there. 529 college planning accounts that are out there here now that we're back in school, are going to be virtually learning or in person, depends on which district you're part of. Let's look at those EdVest accounts that you have. Let's look at the 529 accounts that we're managing for you. Let's look at those allocations. Account balances are back up now, right? So if we're using certain funds or target date funds or age-based funds, let's take a look at those allocations during our reviews, because we have some ideas around that now that balances are back up. Family wealth planning. How do the pieces fit together between you, your grandchildren, your children, and the organizations you feel strongly about? So if there's an intention that we may not use all of our money, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But if we're not going to, let's bring the family into this and get the right assets to the right people at the right time. We're specialists at this. We understand these pieces very well. We understand the tax ramifications of it all. Let us know. We are here to help you through that and put some ideas and scenarios together for you as well. Another one, some of you are involved in startup companies, and we just had a really fun scenario come through our situation here recently, is shares that were granted to someone who is part of a startup company. There is a very, very particular election. It's called the 83B election. Not that you know that, but it's an 83B election. It's all about whether we pay tax now on the shares granted to us, or do we pay later. And so again, if you're part of a startup company, you're granted shares, let us know. I understand this piece very well. We have a client who flies airlines, flying a lot of cargo around the world. Lots of cargo being flown right now. Now, there's about 50% capacity, he said, as far as passengers, and that's by demand, not necessarily COVID restrictions. So about 50% are full right now, and that's by demand. So it's a very interesting piece to look at. Money's being spent, maybe not necessarily on the airlines as much right now, or cruise ships, but I can't tell you how many people I've run into that have increased or actually upgraded their home theater system at home. So money's being spent just in different areas. A lot of these businesses were doing okay before, and now they're having banner years in the home theater system because everyone is home now and they've been home for a while. They upgraded their situation. So those are some of the things that I'm seeing that you're talking to me about that I wanted to share to everybody who decides to watch this, live with us right now, or decides to watch this, at their own time and convenience.
Awesome, Ken. Thank you very much. A couple things too, a couple stats as well that is interesting. Did you realize that when it comes to COVID right now, there's a couple of vaccines coming. Right now to be effective, it only takes 50% of the people to actually not get COVID for a vaccine to pass right now. So it only has to be 50% effective. That surprises a lot of people. And then the statistics are also this as well. If a vaccine comes out, 49% of people will get it right away. And 51% says they're going to wait and hold off. Now, these statistics actually come from the Food and Drug Administration, which is kind of an interesting piece as well. And then University of Chicago's Opinion Research Center is another one as well. So it's interesting to say a vaccine comes, but only half of people are going to take it. So there's going to be a lot of debate that goes on with that piece as well, but it's an interesting piece as you take a look at it. Another one as well, there's 57 cruise ships parked off of the coast right now. Why are they? Well, they're mandated. They can't operate right now. Why are they not in port? Because per day that they're in port, it costs them $10,000 for port fees. So they're instead anchored off the coast with full crews, waiting there just until that they can actually be lifted and come in and pick up passengers and move again. But who knows when that will be. I thought that was an interesting stat as well. And if you guys are into math, this is kind of an interesting one. So I guess there's a big debate over which conference is the best conference at math. So if you look at it this way, the Big Ten has 14 teams. The Big 12 has 10 teams, and the Pac-12 has 12. I'll leave that debate and that answer up to you, but the math is a little bit goofy. Anyway, I thought I would share that piece as well. A lot of times too, I think Ken and Zach talked about the recession as well, the recession that occurred, a 29% or 23% recession. So we went from 21 trillion to producing 19.4 trillion, which is a big number, right? But if you look at it and go back 10 years, our economy produced 14.9 trillion. If you go back 20 years, our economy produced 10.2 trillion. You go back 30 years, it was 6 trillion. So over a 3 times increase, if you will, over the past 30 years is still quite phenomenal. And each one has had a step back before it's moved forward. But I wanted to go out and just talk about those in a couple of cases. Now, I had a phenomenal ability to read a book, or phenomenal situation to read a book called What Retirees Want by Ken Dykewald. That's phenomenal. But he wrote a great piece recently in an interview, which is he believes that what's happening right now is called cocooning. So if you look at life, we're go, 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 go. Rarely do you get a chance to sit back and reflect. And what does a cocoon do? A cocoon allows us to sit back, reflect, look at what it is we want to be, we want to do, throw away the things we don't want to do, and we're spending our time on. And really, the metamorphosis becomes, what do we emerge on the other side as? We can emerge on the other side as exactly what we want to be and go forward with that. I thought it was a wonderful time about this, is this metamorphosis and cocooning time frame that we've been given. So if you want to look at it in a way of gratitude, you've been given an opportunity to actually cocoon, to go in and figure this out and figure out what you want to do and who you want to be on the other side of this. So that's where the faith, patience, and discipline is, that you actually there's a reason for this. Maybe there's somebody larger in control of this than we believe, at least spiritually for many of us. And also just looking at the discipline to do something about this, and to do something maybe in society you haven't done before when you can at the end of it. So it was an interesting concept here as well. We also understand through this book, there's a couple of fears people have, whether they say it or not. Some share it with us, some don't. But in the very vulnerable side, we understand that the biggest fear that everybody has when they retire is losing their memory, dementia, as far as health. That is the biggest fear by far. 75% of people are concerned with that. And it's an interesting piece for us to see. So what can be done about it? Maybe there's some resources we can point you to. Maybe there's some things we can do to help you. If there's any tests, if there's more importantly, anything you can do to reverse, to prevent. we'll look at different resources we can find. Those are the kind of things that we like to know and hear, because we do have resources that we can point you to as far as that maybe be able to help you with the things you're most concerned with. Because here's the one thing I'm going to tell you. We do understand that people are very concerned. During the correction, the fears may have gone to money. But as Ken said, if you took your snapshot one time a year and then you went away and you came back and just trusted us once a year, from last year January to this year January, potentially to this coming year January, you wouldn't know anything happened. I think that's an important piece. Many people, to myself, have actually thanked me for changing their life. And I'm very humbled to go, well, let me ask you a question. I appreciate it. What was it? And they say, you told me to stop watching the media. Because what I realized is all I was doing is getting angry about it. It was causing angst in me. I wasn't going out and marching. I wasn't going out and doing something about it, but it was doing something to me. Be very careful with the media right now, because it is very divisive in what's going on. It's really understanding how to get your amygdala and affect you and get you enraged about something, of which right now we don't really have a lot of ability to go out and do a lot because of the issues going on with COVID. So be very careful. If you can release yourself from some of that, you could watch, well, I was going to say you could watch the Bucks play basketball, but that's maybe a little more frustrating right now than the news. Maybe you could watch some baseball. You could watch a few other things, go out and go for a walk. But again, one of those things, reduce your media consumption, because I know a lot of clients have really amped some of that media consumption up, just because there's not a whole lot of else to do. So find some great books, read some literature that you've never read before, some of your bucket list items of reading you might want to do as well. I had a client reach out recently for that. I think if you take a look at this as well, the biggest thing that we see for you on a go-forward basis is please continue to share with us the things that you're concerned with. Share successes, because we'll share those with others, not by name for you, but just that encouragement, some good things that are occurring, because a lot of you have become your grandchildren's guardians during this. Because here's the biggest thing, the biggest frustration I have about some of these schools closing. Our school recently, just last night, voted that they would be in a meeting, and that meeting decided that they would go online only. I think a lot of times you'll find here 50% of the teachers didn't feel it was comfortable or safe, but 75% of the parents and students wanted their kids to go to school. So you look at these kind of things, they just couldn't figure out how to match those numbers, so they decided to go online. But it's an interesting piece. How prepared are we for online school? Those are the interesting pieces, right? There's a lot of frustration, a lot of people going on with that. So let's come back to this. Let's respond in a kind of way. Wow, that could be the right decision. We just don't know yet. We don't know the outcome of this whole thing. So I'd say in that same vein, I'm going to challenge you today to be able to work on responding versus reacting. Reacting is when somebody passes you on the freeway and you want to give them a finger, and it's typically not the one of, hey, how you doing? That's the reaction. It's like, oh, it's visceral. The response is this, taking a moment to think, and I've done this, and actually now this is natural for me. That person is potentially going to save somebody's life at a hospital. They're going because their wife is, pregnant and they need to get to the hospital quickly. There's something going on in their life. If you can flip it to that and respond in a way of letting them get by, they're in a hurry, they're whatever. Do that with everything you possibly can right now. Become part of the solution, because the problems occur right now with our frustration, and we want to take it out somewhere. I'd say if you want to take out your frustration, take it out on a really tough, aggressive walk, or a run, or weightlifting, or get a punching bag and beat that up and call it whatever you'd like to. Get that frustration out somehow. Just don't take it out on each other, because right now it's super important that we're patient, kind, and I think that's one of the most important pieces for us as well. So from us all here at Gentian, this is what we do, but the most important thing is getting through times like this is who we are. It's what we want to help you with. So feel free to reach out for us. Feel free to reach out to our team, and thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a client of ours. We really feel grateful that you allow us to do what we do for you and provide the guidance for your incredible story of retirement. So thank you tremendously. Now, one last thing I'll leave you with on this as well. And this is something that's kind of struck me is we may be cocooning right now, but here's the case. We're kind of in this time of self-reflection. And actually, this is what Ken said. Not Ken, but Ken Dykewald said. It's a time of self-reflection, almost like a near-death experience. You may not have died physically, but you may feel like you've died socially. I know to many people, they feel that way. So here's what's interesting. It's important, what do we do from that with here? So what becomes of this? More importantly, who do you want to be in the end? The only way we can actually be that is to start doing something about it now. So if life was too crazy and things were causing us to get astray from where we want to be, great time for this self-reflection to go, all right, this is who I want to be. I want to help my community. I want to help my family. I want to help my grandkids. Put a plan together for it. And when you can, begin to do it. So I want to challenge you to come up with, you can, is What is it you want to do? And if you want to share that with us, there's something magic about that. In our meetings, phone calls with Ken, Zach, myself, Peter, Ashley, share with us what it is you want to do that's most important to you from here on out. You don't know how many days you have. It could be, 40 years. It could be 10 years. It could be, we don't know. But share that with us. There's something magic when you share that. Things happen that are amazing. So I just wanted to leave you with that piece as well. But, from our team, really, we appreciate what you've done. Stay positive, stay grateful, have a wonderful, wonderful week here. We from Gentian feel, again, honored that you are our clients from our entire team here. Have a great 2 weeks, and we will talk to you again. And those who we talk to on the phone, we'll talk to you sooner. Thank you.